Hey guys, I'm a beginner programmer, just programming a few years ago, and I'm currently studying computer science. Teaching us C++. We're spending most of our time in C++ as a primary programming language. So I've been pondering a question lately as to whether programming still relevant in 2024 moving forward, where artificial intelligence is and where artificial intelligence is going. Is it still worth learning how to program? Because I mean, we're at a stage where you can ask an AI program or AI bot or whatever just to program something for you that you need. You can ask it to help you learn how to implement certain things. You can ask it to build your apps, to build your programs. There's so many things that I've seen which AI is capable of. So I'm still wondering, is this worth learning? I don't know. I don't know because at the current moment, I predict AI will get even better than humans in terms of programming. I don't know if any companies or anybody would want to actually hire a programmer um, moving forward, maybe 2025, 2026 moving forward, just how quickly things are progressing. Um, okay, as with anything, let me just head over to YouTube and just see if there's any just difference of opinions from other people. And yeah, let's head on over to
As
YouTube.
an ex-Google, ex-Meta tech lead myself, I may be one of the most qualified people out there to answer this question for you. It is an unequivocal no, it's not. We're entering an age of AI, ChatGPT, no-code solutions, an oversaturated job market where everyone in the world seems to be learning to code, including their grandmas, and general loss of consumer interest in downloading yet another app or bookmarking yet another website. Software engineering may be becoming another dead-end job if it wasn't a dead-end job already. Every once in a generation, we see the collapse of an entire career path. In the past year, I haven't coded at all. In fact, I've been traveling. I just came back from Costa Rica. It was great. There was zip lining. I saw sloths, birds, monkeys. And you know what? I had joined this tour group. When I sat down for dinner with them, they did not want to talk about coding. Coding bored them. They wanted to talk about soccer, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, music. A quick pause. If you're looking to bring your side hustle to life, then you want to check out our sponsor, Skillshare. Make 2024 the year your side increase your productivity from scratch and how to manage it efficiently so you can really free 1 month to learn whatever you want. So whether you below. Let's coin a term, shall we? The coding delusion. It's much like the college delusion where people were scammed into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and wasting 4 years of their life.
Okay, that's the other problem. The cost of universities and college and whatnot. Um, every single year, costs just keep rising up, and the prospect of actually finding a job after actually learning whatever it is that you're learning in college or university just keeps going down. So I don't know. I don't know.
On a useless degree which they viewed as the gateway to success but really led them into Starbucks baristas jobs. And so the coding delusion is similar, where a lot of people put coding on this pedestal viewing it as the gateway to success, whereas really it just leads you down this terrible 9 to 5 slog of a job in which maybe you're getting paid 60K.
Okay, I think at some point it was a few years ago, maybe just round about pre-pandemic. Um, there was a time where just getting having a software engineering kind of like experience was very valuable, and people were just getting jobs left, right, and center. And that I think disappeared after a while.
Per year. Maybe a little bit more, sure. But it was originally viewed as the way to become the next app millionaire, the next Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or Steve Jobs. This is not reality. That was 20 years ago. And you see this all the time in Silicon Valley and software engineers where they're just saying, well, you've got the code. If you're not developing, if you're not writing code, then you're not doing anything. You're doing some clown stuff. If you're not typing C++, hello world, for loops and if statements, do while loops, then what are you doing? Now, by the way, you may be wondering, What is this beautiful mechanical keyboard on my desk? And it just may be perfect. The Keychron Q1 Max, I'll talk about it at the end of the video. The landscape has changed so much. People are no longer downloading apps or videos. Now have code influencers who essentially are people who can't code, who have never coded in their lives. Maybe they're React developers, and they're just selling you the dream that maybe you can be a cool programmer or software engineer. And really their whole entire identity revolves around making programmer jokes, coding memes, idolizing tech CEOs. And it's a throwback.
By the way, programming jobs aren't really that sexy. You sit for hours in front of your screen, going away at it. It's not really that sexy of a job anymore.
A callback to the days when this used to be the path to success. And yet, these code influencers will continue to sell you this Ponzi dream scheme of an idea that coding will somehow make you rich, setting you free, when in reality that is far from the case. Coding itself has become a Ponzi scheme, preying on poor, uneducated people who think that they're going to become the next Mark Zuckerberg if they just learn React. Let me tell you something about React. React is the language of the slaves. It was originally developed by Facebook for its mass army of junior engineers who could not develop at all and who had no logic or reasoning at all. These people they messed up all the time, and so they needed a language that was impossible to mess up in. And so they developed React, which was a language devoid of all logic, control flow, where all you had to do was wire up the button to the state, and everything else was immutable, such that it was virtually impossible to mess this up, and any fool could be developing this. And so the reality is, if you're a React developer, which so many people are, you're not actually a real software engineer or developer, because you're not putting to use any algorithms or data structures, and there is no career path to anything higher than that. You're basically doing the job of an automaton slave that eventually ChatGPT will be able to do for us. It's also relevant to note, I'm one of the few software engineers who will actually tell you this because I'm able to step out of my role. Most other developers and people in Silicon Valley have their heads stuck in the grounds, and they completely miss the social media revolution. They miss the no-code solutions, still thinking that STEM degrees are the path to success, looking to the old ways of making money where they get 2 weeks vacations per year, making a good income of $80K per year. They think that's pretty solid. And yet they completely missed out on the social media revolutions and no-code solutions that have minted an entire generation of millionaires. What really happened over the past decade was the construction of an entire consumer layer, the media layer, that comes between your app, service, or website and the consumer. And that is where we see some of the most successful people today working in. I'm talking about people like Andrew Tate, Patrick Bet-David, Mr. Beast, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan. All of these people are building media companies, and yet Silicon Valley seems to have completely missed out, and not only missed out, but ignored this entire trend, pretending that it doesn't even exist. And yet this is that layer that comes between their apps and websites and the consumer. They don't have distribution anymore. And so while Silicon Valley is still busy competing to see who can be the best developer with the best Emacs Vim key binding setups and who can install Arch Linux the fastest, and I'll give you a hint, the best developer is whoever can write negative lines of code. All code is technical debt. Right? Stop writing code. You don't even need algorithms anymore. These days, everything is just powered by machine learning models and hallucinations. The rest of the world, meanwhile, has already moved on to better, more interesting things and faster ways of making money than the 9-to-5 grind. This past year, I've taken a vacation basically every other month, visiting Hawaii, Scandinavia, Japan, Italy, and Greece, and Costa Rica most recently. And during my travels, I met so many other remote workers and wannabe digital nomads living that Instagram influencer travel lifestyle, because that's what people want these days. You see, the role of the software engineer was originally founded in the 1960s for a sedentary lifestyle where you would earn maybe 60, 70K per year, not accounting for inflation. Today, it can't even keep pace with inflation, in which you would work 9 to 5 and retire around age 60, 70, maybe never or so. And that was considered a pretty decent, solid lifestyle.
Imagine earning that amount of money and living in San Francisco. That's a terrible amount of money.
These days, it's just not good enough. It's too slow, it's too low pay, it's too low status, and it's really becoming grunt-like work, and there are just better, faster ways to make money. I think in today's society, actually, if you really want to be at the top of your game, and even to say top 10% of the population or so, you may want to consider going the entrepreneurial route. Now, of course, not everyone's suited to become an entrepreneur, and it's pretty hard work, and Not very fun either sometimes, but it's easier than ever for people to become entrepreneurs these days, unlike in the older times. And arguably, being a programmer is simply just not as high status.
This also goes against what most people are predicting in the industry. A lot of very smart people as well, but I think they're wrong. The talk about AI taking our programming jobs is everywhere. There are articles being written, social media going crazy, and comments on seemingly every one of my YouTube videos. And when I made my video about ChatGPT, I had 2 comments there that really stuck out to me. One was that someone wished I had included my opinion about AI in that video, and the other was asking if AI will make programmers obsolete in 5 years. I even got a tweet about it too. Well, this video is to answer just that. Will programmers be obsolete in 5 years? And after learning, researching, and using many different AI tools over the last many months, a video about those tools coming soon, well, let's just say I have a lot of thoughts on the topic. What AI can do for programmers right now, how it's looking to progress in the near future, and will programmers be obsolete in the next 5 years? There's a lot to unpack here, but what I find most hilarious is how so many self-proclaimed experts have been so wrong. Today, sure, they're saying how AI is coming after your white collar and creative jobs. But not too long ago, all of these same people were saying how some experts like doctors and lawyers and accountants and programmers cannot be replaced by robots with artificial intelligence. Because there's just some things too tricky for robots to handle, like subjective judgment, creativity, and empathy. Surely only blue-collar jobs are at risk, right? This is what they said, but they changed their tune real quick over the past few years. Because these jobs are what AI is currently focused on. Writing, design, finance, programming. That's obviously what we're going to be honing in on today, programming. And to get an even better understanding and to be able to formulate a better opinion about the future of technology, particularly AI, we always have to be educating ourselves. We always have to be learning. And that's why I'll be virtually attending NVIDIA Spring GTC 2023 this Monday to Thursday, March 20th to March 23rd, which by the way is completely advancements in this space. So the content and the talks, today's video, how AI will affect programming or jobs in general. I'm curious to see if they have a similar opinion to mine. If they differ, maybe they have some arguments I didn't think of. The founder and CEO of Sick. And not only that, but you may have noticed something here in the background. That's right. They, of course, are giving it away as well as the DLI credits. NVIDIA Spring GTC building, painting, and fastening on the assembly line for the truck you drive. Basically, every factory job is being automated one way or another. Where you needed 10 people to do this job, now maybe only need 2. I mean, you really think there are individuals packing each box of your Cheez-Its for you? No, of course not. But here's the thing. This phenomenon, if you will, has been occurring for hundreds or I could even say thousands of years. Scribes, the people who meticulously and laboriously handwrote books and other writings, they were replaced by the much more efficient printing press invented around the year 1436, and even earlier when movable type printing first developed in the Far East sometime around 700 AD. Farming, the lifelong practice of and other machinery, a single orders. Weaver, knitters, textile workers, these Luddites, I use software. Secretaries and typists replaced by apps. Cashiers replaced by kiosks. Telemarketers replaced by automated phone calls, just trying to contact you about your car's extended warranty. And the infamous switchboard operators. I don't know why they're infamous, it just sounded replaced. It makes a whole lot more sense why white collar and creative jobs are next on the chopping block. Many of these jobs are simple, repetitive tasks performed in a single spot. Sounds a bit too familiar, doesn't it? These are some of the many jobs that were automated in the past. So let's hold on to that while we discuss what AI can do for programmers now, because we need all of this information to best predict the future. So what can AI do for programmers now? Well, there are a lot of tools that can help programmers, do their job and the workflow that I'll discuss in depth in a future video. But the tools specific to writing code in the space include code completion tools, automated testing tools, and code refactoring tools. But the one type we have to keep a serious eye on are the code generation tools. We've seen these in the form of Bayou, or I believe it's called DeepCoder, or an OpenAI Codex, and other similar tools to Codex that other tech giants are building. OpenAI Codex, for those that don't know, is basically what's behind ChatGPT in the code generation aspect, combined with GPT 3.5. It's also what GitHub Copilot is built upon. These tools, these code generation tools, take plain text and turn them into usable code. It's not perfect. There's still need for human intervention right now, but for how long? Those kinks will undoubtedly work themselves out in the near future. And it can do everything I mentioned before. Code completion, obviously code generation. It can write tests for you. It can refactor the code. It can describe entire code bases to you. And overall, it's actually quite impressive what it can do for your entire programming workflow. Given that information, do I think programmers will be obsolete in the next 5 years? No. Obsolete isn't the right word. Heavily reduced? Yeah, absolutely. And if not in the next 5 years, then definitely within the next 10. And you may find that answer surprising. It's actually different than my initial answer going into research for this video. I even wrote an entire script going over all the reasons why programmers will not become obsolete. This also goes against what most people are predicting in the industry. A lot of very smart people as well, but I think they're wrong. Absolutely wrong. And here's why. When people think about this question, they're thinking about all programmers. I'm not. I'm thinking about how tractors reduce the amount of farmers needed to do the job. They're thinking about cashiers being replaced by kiosks. I'm thinking about weavers, knitters, and textile workers being replaced by a fewer amount of machine setters, operators, and tenders. They're thinking of manufacturing jobs being replaced by robots. I'm thinking of junior developers being made obsolete by artificial intelligence. I mean, think about the actual workflow of a software engineering team, right? You come together and you create a 2-week sprint. You have these user stories that you break down into tasks. You're pulling other tasks and things from the backlog, writing a description for it, estimating how long each task will take, and you start your sprint. Each developer is assigned or chooses the tasks they are to complete and complete them over the next 2 weeks. And a piece right here is what I had overlooked when I thought that programming jobs would not be replaced by artificial intelligence. My argument was that senior developers wouldn't want to be bothered by the redundant and simple and mundane tasks that they assign to junior developers. I mean, that's one of the main reasons junior developers are there, to do everything that senior dev don't want to do. AI would just make these junior devs more efficient. I mean, because after all, somebody has to tell the AI what to write and then review the code that it writes, make sure it all works, and then throw it into your version control workflow. And the senior devs, while they could do that, they're just too busy for that. It's below their pay grade. However, this is the missing piece. In the sprint, the senior devs already have a task with a title and a description on what needs to be done. Whether it's a feature that needs to be implemented or a bug that needs to be fixed, or maybe just code smells or snippets of code.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? I think you may be missing something as well. Because the part of AI, with the AI agents, what if now there's an AI agent that acts the role of the senior developer? What if now there's an AI agent that acts the role of a junior developer? What if now there's an AI agent that just works on bugs? What if now there's an AI agent that works on testing the product? What if now there's... So basically, every part of the product cycle, there can be an AI agent that can take over that role. Maybe I'm missing something, because you wrote this like you did this video about a year ago, so probably maybe AI agents hadn't really become a thing back then. I'm not sure if I don't remember quite clearly, but with AI agents now, I think I disagree with you a little bit.
That need to be refactored. Instead of assigning that task to Billy, you could just, in your issue tracking software, project management software, assign the task to the AI. The AI will be connected to your entire workflow. You assign the task to the AI and it writes the code like that. It writes the tests like that. It tests it within the entire code base that it has access to, and then again, it's part of your entire workflow. It can push that code, creating a new feature branch for that code, and then submitting a pull request to the development branch for code review. The code is already needed to be reviewed by the senior dev or somebody else in the team, and it's already being written during the sprint. Those are the two main processes that the junior dev would need to do, but the AI can already do the other parts, and these aspects are already being done. So what is the need for the junior dev, other than like redundancy or something? The only missing piece here is what happens when a senior dev leaves or retires. So there's going to have to be something in place to account for that. Maybe there's going to be a rise in skill gap for developers, just like there has been throughout history and in many other industries and jobs. Or, and what I think will be more likely long-term, is really that the entire landscape will change. Instead of there being, like senior developers, they're not going to be writing much code. They're going to be maybe called something more like a software app administrator, if they want to still have some sort of name to that. Overall, they're just going to be a little bit more involved in the code project manager. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be a need for somebody in between the AI and the code and the end user, whoever needs the product. And that's what you are.
Okay, I agree. Okay, that part I agree. I doubt any company would let AI run the entire process without the need for a human intervention, because there's always going to be just different softwares can break down, so many things can happen. So definitely that part I agree. There'll probably be a need for changing of job titles, as you say, just to create other kinds of jobs. Not necessarily programming jobs, but maybe AI management or whatever, senior AI manager or whatever, something like that. Something that will just manage everything, manage the entire process, make sure the entire process is going smoothly, make sure that nothing is actually breaking apart anyway, making sure that when the software is delivered to the client, or when the software is made access available to the client, that the client is happy with it, or if there's so many different parts of this process that I think will create different kinds of jobs. But programming itself, I'm not sure if it will still be there. As it currently is, no.
It'll effectively be similar to how freelancers and even companies build websites using Wix or Squarespace or no-code tools. There's going to be a need for somebody to do that because, if I need that done, I have a business to operate, or I have this to do. I'm not going to go in there and build it. I'm going to hire somebody to do. So you're going to have an understanding of like the overall architecture and whatnot. And when I say the skill gap may be increased, again, I think that's short term. I think long term, here's the thing. You can understand the fundamentals and the principles and the overall architecture. Again, you'll just be learning these high level things that mostly like senior devs and project managers need to focus on, whereas junior devs don't. But like when you need to go into a new job and understand the code base, the AI will just describe the entire project and the entire goal of the project in layman's terms, in plain English, for you to understand and get caught up for the entire code base. And if you have any further questions about more specifics, you just ask the AI and it'll tell you, just like it can do now, but it'll be even better over the next 5 years, especially over the next 10. So yeah, unlike most others, I do think over the next, let's say 10 years, we will be seeing a decline in programming jobs overall. And this doesn't mean that there's not going to be any jobs available, because people leave.
Okay, I basically just, we don't need to end that off, but I basically just agree with him.
There is a company that
the kind of jobs will definitely change. Okay, let's see what the NVIDIA CEO has to say about this.
Jensen Huang, co-founder and CEO of NVIDIA, the company that is at the heart of AI revolution, recently made a comment about what kids should learn in the future. And let me spoil it to you, it's not computer science or programming.
I'm going to say something and it's going to sound completely opposite of what people feel. You probably recall, over the course of the last 10 years, 15 years, almost everybody who sits on a stage like this would tell you it is vital that your children learn computer science.
It's no longer vital.
Everybody should learn how to program. And in fact, it's almost exactly the opposite. It is our job to create computing technology such that nobody has to program.
Jarvis, you up?
And that the programming language is human.
At SymphMinds, a full-service AI agency where I'm a co-founder, we're in a close relationship with NVIDIA. And later in this video, I will include a clip of what Jensen said people should study, which is also in alignment why we're expanding our team with people like Amy Zolotov, who comes from healthcare. Collectively, we trained and taught close to 20,000.
This is the miracle of artificial intelligence. For the very first time, we have closed the gap. The technology divide has been completely closed. And this is the reason why so many people can engage artificial intelligence. It is the reason why every single government, every single industrial conference, every single company is talking about artificial intelligence today. Because
Okay, guys, I'm convinced that learning programming isn't really a good idea at this point in moment in history. But am I succumbing to media bias, certain kind of bias? Maybe there is an argument on the other side. Is there somebody here? Okay, why you should learn to code in 2024. Let's see if somebody can give.
Today I want to weigh in on a question that I see floating around more than ever. Is it even worth learning how to code in 2024? The short answer is it depends. But the full answer has a lot more to do with who you are and what you're trying to achieve, and the other skill that's probably going to be even more important than coding over the next decade. So I'll start by getting some of the easy scenarios out of the way. If you're someone who's not interested in writing software as
What is prompt? Oh, so basically just like giving the computer different prompts.
Processes behind AI language models. In this context, a prompt is an input that goes into a program like ChatGPT, Bard, or DALL-E. Since these programs are relatively new, prompt engineering is an important practice that ensures they will produce an accurate output. In the business world, prompt engineering is being used to adjust language models to operate in different enterprise situations. For example, if a business wants to use a chatbot for customer service purposes, a prompt engineer designs and identifies prompts that produce an appropriate and accessible output. In this case, a prompt might be, "How can I transfer files between two laptops?" And the response would ideally be helpful and straightforward. If, however, the model returns with inaccessible tech gibberish, a prompt engineer would have to make adjustments.
Okay.
as your main thing, and you're really just using it as a tool for something secondary, like building a personal website or building an app for some of your clients, you don't need to learn how to code. I really enjoy coding, so if you're interested in it, I definitely recommend learning it. But if you're just viewing coding as a means to an end, then for the vast majority of people, it's not going to be worth it. With more and more low-code and no-code tools on the market and recent advancements in AI where you can just explain what you want in plain English, we're pretty much at a point where you don't really need to learn how to code to make something that's going to be good enough, at least for most use cases. But what if you actually do want to build software, either for your job or as an indie hacker or just to make interesting side projects? This is where it gets a little bit trickier. AI tools are not at the point where they can completely replace the need to know how to code yet. Now, it could definitely fill in some pieces, but we're not at a point where you can just describe to an AI what you want your app to do, and then it spits out a really complex, flawless project. And even as the AI gets better, it's going to be a long time before it gets to be perfect, which means even if you're not coding from scratch, you probably still will need to do some coding, whether it's debugging through a mistake that the AI made, or just handling some of the more complex tasks that the AI can't do by itself. This is a really significant point that I think warrants drawing more attention to. Even if the AI is good enough that it can do 90% of your coding for you, that still means you need to do 10% of the coding. And presumably, that's going to be 10% of the more complicated tasks. It's the ones that the AI couldn't handle, which means you still need to be able to code well. Without understanding the code that the AI is producing, you won't be able to debug through it if it actually does make a mistake, and you also won't be able to effectively integrate with it. Which goes beyond just knowing coding syntax. All of the normal design decisions and patterns that you would need to know about will be automatically taken care of by the AI, which is great until it's using dependency injection in the app and you don't know how that works, or even what that means. Which leads into the most important skill, more so than coding, and it's not prompt engineering, although that is going to be very important over the next few years: learning to think like a developer. Even if you weren't the one writing the syntax, can you effectively convey the intent of how your project should look and how it should function? And do you know enough about design patterns and how code works to be able to guide an AI or to work alongside it? Last year, I built a basic Swift app using exclusively ChatGPT in under 4 hours, and I documented the whole thing in a video. It actually worked. In fact, it worked a lot better than I had expected at the time, and making that video was a big motivator for me to start integrating AI a lot more into my workflow because I saw just how good of a job it can do. But importantly, and I pointed this out in the video, I had a lot of existing knowledge about how to build an iOS app. If I didn't know anything about iOS or Swift or just programming for that matter, I wouldn't have been able to give it the right information to get the outputs I was looking for. Or I wouldn't know how to arrange the blocks of code that it was spitting out. Or maybe I just couldn't read the code, and if there was an issue with it, I wouldn't be able to tell it, hey, this is what I want, by adjusting my prompt. Part of this is just prompt engineering, but it's also understanding how to assemble software. Even if you're not writing the code, you know how to put it together.
Okay, this video makes the most amount of sense. Learning programming isn't necessarily necessary, but if you're going to work with an AI system to write programs for you, you're basically just going to need to understand what it's doing, be able to give it the right kind of instructions, be able to take those instructions, be able to put together programs, do certain kinds of design patterns, like a factory design, serializing pattern. Basically, this makes a lot of sense. It's worth learning programming, but understand that the junior level programming is about to actually go away, but the high level one where you're working alongside AI will still be there. As to how long that will be, I really don't know. In 5 to 10 years time, we will still have that, or will an AI be able to do everything from start to finish? I wonder. Okay. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on this.